emotion is always one of relief when the connection works. We get somebody on. So not being the most technically competent person, Sam, but thank you so much for joining us. It's brilliant to have you here. I was just introducing you while we were waiting for the connection to kick off. You co-founded the amazing website Joe Divine with your husband Paul in 2007. It's an online sex toy company, if anyone's not familiar with it. And you have a professional background in nursing as well, and you're a sexual health and pleasure expert. And I've obviously done a load of reading on your website. The content and the products that you have are incredibly helpful. And I know, Sam, one of the questions that we get a lot in the pause community from my menopause center is around sex and relationships. And it's so important to talk about this because it's still very much a taboo subject. I know you've quoted research, and we have as well, that shows around half of women say in research, menopausal women say that they suffer from loss of libido, and maybe are around 1 in 3 vaginal dryness or bladder problems. But I certainly know Dr. Claire and the other doctors in our clinic think this is vastly underestimated, because even in surveys, women are too embarrassed to admit it, even in the privacy of an anonymous survey. And I know they always proactively ask about these things because there's solutions there, which is what we're going to talk about this evening. But before we kick off, Sam, maybe you could share a little bit about yourself and why you and your husband founded Joe Divine over 15 years ago.
Okay, so my background's nursing. Paul comes from a banking background. He works in IT, so he's the brains behind it. It was his idea, thought up in a pub in Suffolk many years ago, and basically it was with a view to sell skin safe and irritant free products. There were some high-end products coming to market, Fun Factory, Lalo. Yes, organic lubricants had just been launched, I think the year before. And we thought, well, actually, you know, there seems to be a gap in the market. We'd had sex toys in the past, Rampant Rabbit, which I think had conked out after the second use and given me thrush, and some jelly toy, which was disgusting. And so basically we set up the company, and I realised that conversations I was having with people on the phone, they were actually buying the product they'd seen in Good Housekeeping that we advertised in, or Woman and Home, to help them with a health issue. Not always, but you ended up having conversations. I thought, well, where's all this information helping people with their sex lives? You know, after cancer, hysterectomy, menopause, childbirth, you know, men with erectile dysfunction. There was very little. So I started writing. I discovered I could actually write, and I obviously can talk a lot. But also, it saved our sex life and my intimate health, because we started using the Yes products and I had a history of recurrent infections, so thrush, bacterial vaginosis, cystitis, urinary tract infections. Every time we're having sex, I met Paul when I was 23, this went on for 20 years. That then led to vaginismus. So every time we're having sex, I'd be thinking, am I going to be up all night on the loo with cystitis? Am I going to be itching on the ward tomorrow with thrush? Had no idea. Went back to the GP. You had to get Canesten prescribed because you couldn't get it over the counter. Not one doctor asked me about my sex life, didn't ask me what I was washing with, didn't ask me what lube I was using. There was no investigations at all. I'd never heard of vaginismus, so trained as a nurse. Got a diagnosis at 30. And was offered stress management. Then we moved to New York, and so basically, you know, things all got mixed up and lost. And it wasn't until we set up Joe Divine and started using the Yes products, and within about a week, I said to Paul, I haven't had any stinging or itching or irritation after sex. And it was that light bulb moment for me, which is why now I never shut up about vaginas and why ingredients matter, and because at that point there weren't that many products out there. And we were using the 2 well-known lubricant brands that are available, still widely available, but there's even more stuff now, and intimate hygiene products. So for me, that's our personal experience. So, and I like sex, but my body hasn't always liked it. My head was saying yes, and my vagina was going no. So you know, lots of people love sex, and actually when it stops working or it doesn't feel the same, they miss it and they mourn the loss of their sex life, or they don't know what to do. So for me, it's actually how I enjoying pleasurable sex. So
yeah, well, I think your first-hand experience and your passion really comes through in your website, Sam, and in the way you approach it. I really loved how on your side about selling with honesty, not vulgarity, and selling high-quality skin-safe products. And that's something we'll come to in a moment in terms of your kind of top tips for what to look out for when looking for the right products. But you know, you've been doing this now for over 15 years. Have you seen any changes in terms of, you know, smashing the taboos around sex? Because I'm Irish, but I would say Irish people and British people can be quite reticent about talking about their sex lives. you know, with their partners, not to mind, you know, friends or family or their doctor. Have you seen any changes, any positive developments?
Um, it's everywhere. We talk about sex all the time. It's in the press. You know, you can't move, can you? You can't breathe for it. The latest celebrities brought out something, you know, that you can buy. And I think we have progressed. I would say my own age group have progressed because they are quite shocking. The 40 to 55-year-olds, they're the group that I have really struggled to talk to. My own peer group, I'm 55. Older women, if they've had a good sex life and want to carry on, and they actually tend to talk about their sex life. The younger women are much better. They are thinking more about it. And my daughter's a young sex educator, you know, with her, she's 23. So I think, you know, and they're more used to using lubricants and sex toys and having sex or not having sex. You know, they're actually really quite good. But this demographic really do struggle because of, you know, as you say, Irish, you know, I mean, I had, you know, worked with various Irish menopausal groups, and actually the you know, it's shame, and it's not just people in Ireland as well. It's, you know, it's actually your upbringing, religion, your previous experience, what sex education you had, how you view sex, whether or not you think you deserve to have a good sex life. And I think that things change. And from a healthcare professional point of view, obviously I give talks to healthcare professionals. Our brochures was created in the NHS, a little health brochure with our local hospital. So I think we've actually made strides with healthcare professionals talking about sex. We haven't made enough stride, you know, and but we are slowly getting there. And actually, because it's not part of training, it was never part of my training, and it still isn't. I'd love to stand up in front of med students and tell them all about sex toys. And, you know, you need to be having this conversation with your patients, and don't just assume that, you know, they're not having sex because they're in a wheelchair or they're in their 50s or they've had a cancer diagnosis, you know, and don't assume that your 93-year-old patient isn't having sex, because we've got a 93-year-old customer. So, you know, it's actually sort of dispelling those myths, I think, that actually around sex. And I do think that a lot of people often feel that they hit menopause and then your sex life, it changes and it has to stop. It doesn't. And then people actually don't know what to do because they've got physical and mental health you know, issues that are impacting upon their sexual function and pleasure.
Yeah, and as we're living longer as well, we're going to be postmenopausal for more and more years. And so it's definitely not something we want to give up on, is it? Because it is such an important part of life. And just on that, because you spoke about, you know, talking to your husband about this, did you find it hard initially to speak to Paul about how you were feeling and what was going on? Because that's something we hear a lot about.
Yeah, very much so.
The embarrassment and the shame of speaking to one's partner.
I would have painful sex, which, you know, when I think about it, it was so daft, because now I say to people, always stop, don't. Painful sex is not pleasurable sex. And I remember him being really upset when I said I got this diagnosis, but I was saying, well, actually, it hurts. But he would be able to detect as well. And then that impacted upon him and his erectile function. And even now, occasionally, if I'm sort of sighing in pleasure, and he goes, are you okay? You know, because it's intrinsic to us now, because we spent so many years sort of him being really worried, oh my God, you've got another infection, seeing me with these debilitating infections that took over my life and actually prevented us from having sex. So he didn't want to hurt me. And he, you know, and obviously he gives lots of advice on the phone now, and he can talk from you know, his the male perspective of being on that end of, you know, worrying about their partner. You don't want to hurt your partner, but yeah, and it changes you. You know, anybody who has that pelvic pain, it does makes you completely paranoid about your any little moan and groan, and sort of thinking, oh God, am I getting a UTI? But when you've had chronic infections, I mean, you know, it's understandable. So yeah, it's hard, you know, from the customer who said, have you got a complete silent sex toy I can use when my husband's gone to sleep? And my view, or my comment was, well, could you actually talk to your partner? But I know some people can't.
Yeah.
You know, and we have a lot of men phoning up on behalf of their partners to buy a lubricant, moisturiser, sex toy, dilators, you know, or just ask for advice. And you can hear the wife or the partner in the background. You've got a three-way conversation, but they're too embarrassed to talk to you. And so their partner wants to help them. It's not like that they're desperate for sex. Maybe some are, but they actually want to help them, you know, to make it more pleasurable.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm sure we'll come back to your tips on talking to your partner. But before we do, there are obviously a lot of health benefits. So relationships aside, there are real health benefits to having regular sex or regular orgasm, because clearly you don't have to be in a relationship to orgasm as well. And so if you could, with your brilliant background in nursing and your medical background, I thought it would be great, Sam, if you could just remind everybody of what the health benefits are as well.
Yeah, so basically it releases the feel-good endorphins that make you feel happy, boosts your mood, keeps you looking young, helps you sleep, which often is a real problem in menopause as well, isn't it? And if you wake up in the night, it can help you drift off back to sleep. Helps with pain. I used to masturbate when I was having my periods to help with my period pain. For men, having regular ejaculation actually reduces the risk of prostate cancer by about 22%. And it reduces the risk of an enlarged prostate as well, because you're flushing out static fluid. It boosts your immunity, and we all need that. And it feels good, and it's free. And it's pretty much STI, you're not going to get an STI, you're not going to get pregnant, you can do it on your own, you can do it with a partner, and also it's a way of actually discovering what works for you, what feels pleasurable as well. And it's just great for stress relief as well. So, it's such a good thing to do, and actually a lot more healthcare professionals are telling their patients to go off and get a sex toy, have an orgasm, and it's just brilliant. I work with some lovely doctors, and they say, patients come back and they go, hey doctor, I bought that toy, it was fab, what you said. So it's actually because that then makes patients, well, the doctor's human as well, so but it is just so important. And then for a lot of people, when they've had good sex and it no longer feels pleasurable, then they, as I say, they mourn it, and they don't actually know how to get back into enjoying pleasure sex. Or those who've had poor sex or a poor sexual experience in the past, they're with a new partner, and actually it's a bit painful because they're in menopause, and actually they want to enjoy pleasurable sex with this new partner. So, it's good for you. And I get grumpy when I don't have regular sex. So.
Yeah, no, I know. So it puts a spring in your step, doesn't it, as well? And it helps you feel attractive and sexy as well, and desirable when you do it. Yeah. So on that note, Sam, then, what are your tips or advice if somebody is finding sex painful and requires some additional help with lubrication? What advice and tips do you give somebody?
So the first thing I say to people is always check the ingredients, because the vast majority of products available on the high street, and even some on prescription, contain irritating ingredients. So you need to be avoiding glycerin, glycol, parabens, dyes, perfume, alcohol. Glycerin and glycols create sugary environments inside the vagina, and that actually encourages thrush to thrive. Also, glycerin in a lube is very sticky, and it's not sexy or pleasurable. Parabens are weak hormone disruptors. They're being removed from a lot of beauty products. Obviously, dyes, you don't need a bright pink vulva. Perfumes, you don't need to smell or taste of strawberries. And alcohol, we know that can be quite dry. But also be aware that some brands will use different ingredient descriptions. So if you're not sure what it is, Google it, because you'll often find, oh, actually it is glycerin, oh, actually it is propylene glycol. So, and propylene glycol is often the ingredient that will make it sting when you first put it on your vulva or on a penis or on inside the anus. So that puts couples off from using a lube. So we recommend the Yes products, which are the Yes water-based on prescription. There's the Yes oil-based, because they've got plant-based ingredients in them. We also have Sutil, Lux and Rich. Again, they contain organic and botanical ingredients. These are both long-lasting water-based lubes, and they can be used as vaginal moisturisers. In fact, this is our most popular water-based lubricant, and so that's fine with any sex toy, condoms. Whereas oil-based lubes, anything oil-based will destroy latex condoms, but you can use the oil and water-based lubes together, creates a double glide, so you can use the Yes together, or you can use the Yes and Sutil. And I would say to people, it's when you find a lube that works for you and it can transform your intimate health. And I just say to people, don't just grab the first thing off the shelf or think something in your bathroom or kitchen cupboard is suitable, because a lot of stuff, keep your olive oils and everything for cooking, and your coconut oils, and your body lotions for your body, and baby oil, and we hear all sorts of things that people are using and they're really not good. Sudocrem. And the other thing I say with sort of, you need an intimate regime. I'm somebody who uses local estrogen. I use it 3 times a week. Little pessary I pop inside my vagina. I use the Yes Vaginal Moisturiser twice a week. So a moisturiser is different to a lube, because a moisturiser you use it sort of every 3 to 4 days, and that is sort of a bit longer lasting. I mean, some people do use this as a lube. It was never designed as a lube, so I don't recommend it as a lube. And you can use a little applicator to pop that inside the vagina, or a little lube tube to get it up inside there. Pop it on a toy, use your fingers, pop it in when you've had your last wee, before you go to bed, when you get, you know, before you pop it to bed, because then it'll go up inside your vagina. And then the tube tool you can use as a moisturiser too. So moisturise the vulva, you know, pop it up inside the vagina, you know, and then obviously only wash your vulva with water.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, because when you go into a pharmacy or a supermarket now, you see a lot of vaginal washes available for people. So what are your thoughts on that, Sam?
You don't need one. You know, you just wash with water. If you feel that you need something, obviously you can prescribe a gentle emollient, but people are doing these things cause far more harm than good, a lot more sort of irritation, people getting thrush, reaching for, you know, all sorts of things to try and keep the problems. I know genital dermatologists are seeing a lot more vulval skin conditions caused by these products. And actually you don't, and also we're perpetuating the myth that our vaginas smell. You know, this industry is huge, it's worth billions. The menopause industry in this area is really ramping it up as well. You know, you don't need these products, you don't need bubble baths, shower gels, bath bombs, I call them thrush bombs, they're awful. You know, we've got scented menstrual products, we've got perfume condoms. You know, you've really got to be a detective going smelling packets of pads and things like that to see if they're scented. But, you know, we don't need these products, you know, and we don't need to be eating stuff, gummy bears or whatever, to sort out our, you know, vaginal flora. You know, all this stuff is utter nonsense. Just treat it with some TLC and just wash gently with water and pat it dry. And also check your vulva, and that's important. You check it every month as well, just to notice if there's any changes. So that's really important. But yeah, I'm very vocal about this, you probably know, and I will never stop, because I try to wash away the thrush and the bacterial vaginosis, and you can't wash away bacterial vaginosis, you need antibiotics. And if you're using a wash that's got glycerin in it, you're just going to exacerbate thrush. And actually not all itching is thrush anyway, you know, it could be something else. And if the itching is not going away, then, and you're self-treating with Canesten, then you need to be swabbed to see that it's not something else that needs a different treatment. So yeah.
No, I know this is something that you feel very strongly about, and I just really wanted to share that message with people who are listening in and who watch the video later, because there's a lot of money being spent on things where there's no evidence that things are helping, and in fact, as you say, they're actually not good for you. It's hindering, not helping you. So switching gears slightly though, so when it comes to, if you feel like your relationship has lost its vivum, it's getting a bit boring, you know, you're going through a reappraisal, as many women do, you know, when they go through the menopause, on the same age as you, 55, you really do take stock. What advice or what recommendations do you have? I know you've got a fantastic range of vibrators and clitoral stimulators on the website. So what tips or advice would you have for people, Sam, who want to try something, to do something to spice things up?
Well, I always say invest in a really good lubricant, because that's really going to help. And you can either pop the lube on before you start playing, your partner can pop it on you can put it on a toy, you might just want to pop it on before you have, if you're having finished sex, because not everybody is. But, you know, start simple. Get a little bullet, you know, little toy that looks like a lipstick, battery operated, simple. Use it on your clitoris, use it on nipples, up and down the shaft of the penis, on the head of the penis, on testicles. They're waterproof, use them in the bath or the shower. You know, masturbating is really important, either alone or with your partner, because that's really good. It promotes the blood flow, it promotes your lubrication, it feels good, and it keeps everything sort of flexible and, you know, happy and healthy, and promotes all that friendly bacteria as well that protects our vaginas. So something really, really simple. You know, this is our own first own branded toy, which is a toy that we discontinued, and it's the Joe Divine Imi, but it's actually just a little bullet inside this flexible sleeve. And this is really good as well, because obviously use it, you know, internally or externally, but if the tissues around the edge of the vagina often go a little bit thin in menopause, and actually that initial penetration can feel really uncomfortable and they can split. So I say massage your, you know, your lubricant or your moisturiser on there, and obviously you can play with this toy as well, but it's a really good one. You know, toys don't even look like toys. You know, this is a squidgy pebble, and this is a candy cane, don't know why it's called that, and that's great on nipples as well, because you might find that actually it's not just your clitoris that is pleasurable to touch. You might find your nipples, your earlobe, the back of your neck, the back of your knee. You know, you have erogenous zones all over your body. What, you know, people are turned on by in so many different ways. So it's actually about exploring those things. And I would say to people, have a bit of fun, because it's meant to be fun and pleasurable. And actually, if it doesn't work for you, just have a laugh. You know, if you fall off the bed in a trying position, so that as long as you don't break anything, you know, it's about making it fun and having pleasure together. And, you know, sort of exploring different things together. And, you know, if sex feels painful or uncomfortable, then, you know, or you've got decreased sexual sensation, things change. You know, when you've been with somebody for a long time, or as you've got older, you know, everything, things shrink, your clitoral tissue shrinks as well, and actually your sensation can change. So actually what might have worked years ago no longer works for you, or you're just simply not orgasming in the same way, or your orgasm's not as powerful. So sonic wave or air pulse toys have been brilliant in the last few years. This is the Lalo Sona 2. I showed it on the Davina program, and basically it doesn't vibrate, it uses sonic waves. So this is your clitoris, and that's what you see on the outside. Pop it over your clitoris with a bit of water-based lube to get a seal, and then just leave it in place. You can't move it, don't move it around. And it sends the sensations through the clitoral bulbs, which sit sort of out sort of around the vagina, and actually you think nothing's happening, and then it slowly builds. And it's got 12 levels, and so the lowest levels are really good for somebody who might be hypersensitive. I've only ever got up to level 5 on mine, never got up to level 12. But these toys have really transformed orgasms everywhere. So we've got people having an orgasm who've never had one, you know, people in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Shame they had to wait so long, but, you know, they are now having regular orgasms. But, you know, there's so many different things you can use with a partner. And a lot of the classic vibrators can be used on a penis as well, and obviously on a female partner's clitoris as well. So it's about playing together and enjoying pleasurable things. And obviously there are products for men as well, because that's the other thing as well. We don't talk about the erectile difficulties that men can have, certainly when they sort of head into their 40s and get older. And actually that's a reason why a lot of women are buying a sex toy for themselves, is because their partner is having erectile problems, which we always say, you know, you need to go and see your GP because there might be an underlying serious problem. But actually, and then they'll often buy a toy for themselves, and they'll come back and buy a toy for their partner so they can play together. And also it promotes erectile function as well. So, you know, it's about just having a bit of fun and exploring different sexual sensations that obviously you're not going to get from mutual masturbation or just having penetrative sex, or you're just not getting that clitoral stimulation, because obviously these you can pop in between you know, if you're having penetrative sex. So, you know, they're so small.
Excellent. Now you've shown us an amazing array of products and lubes, and I know these are all on your website. For anyone who's listening in tonight and is going to visit you online after this, any advice on how they can best navigate? Because for some people, or for many people, I imagine this can feel quite overwhelming if you're new to this. So what would your advice be, and where to start? Look at the lubrication and then think about what you want to get out?
Yeah, I would actually say go to the blog. So there are hundreds of articles on the blog. Go to the sexual health category. We created the health brochure at Tunbridge Wells Hospital, and there's an article, and it's got about the products that are in this, the slim vibrators, the lubricant. You know, we have dilators because some people have vaginal tightness and they use the dilators. Some people obviously experience their penetration can feel uncomfortable. Certainly if they had a hysterectomy, the vagina shortens, or they might have a partner who's more well endowed. So there's a fantastic little product called the O-Nut, and it's a group of 4 stretchy rings, and you fit it on there and it acts as a bumper. And also we do have bigger set toys as well. This one is our biggest, but we do have people who've got partners who are more well endowed, and they hit menopause and they get vaginal atrophy, and it's like, gosh, that's really, really painful. So, you know, we accommodate them literally, you know, to help them enjoy pleasurable sex too. So, you know, and obviously the brochure can be posted out to you, but there's loads of information. So it goes on, how do I use my lube to, I wrote a program that followed up the program Sex with the Menopause, but masturbation, libido, and actually it will give you tips, advice, product recommendations, and other healthcare professionals and groups that we work with to offer a holistic approach. So like the pelvic health physios and psychosexual therapists and the cancer charities. So yeah, so that's actually all on the website. And if you're confused, email us. It goes to customer service. Only Paul and I see it. You can give us a call. All calls are confidential. So again, it's only Paul and I. If you want to talk to me, you can ask to talk to me. And also you can send me DMs on Instagram as well, or on Twitter. And so, you know, you can message me in that way as well. So, you know, but I would rather people call if they were unsure. You know, I'm all happy to have a chat with people and give them advice as well. But the information is there. Everything I've said tonight is actually on the website. So, yeah, that's important.
Yeah, look, that's amazing, Sam. You know, our time is up. We've gone through half an hour already. You've shared, you know, incredible insights, and it's just so important that we have this conversation. It's just too desperately sad to think about people who aren't having sex or having it and finding it painful, and that can go on for 10, 20, 30 years, and it is just incredibly sad, especially when there are things that you can do about it. And I know you've mentioned all of the great, you know, sex toys and lubricants that you sell on your website. You also mentioned vaginal estrogens. So obviously we've got a lot of information on vaginal estrogens and how they can help with vaginal dryness, urinary tract infections, and so on. And obviously there's other things you can do around testosterone and estrogen for loss of libido as well. But there isn't one silver bullet normally. It's usually a range of things that you need to explore and try out. And I suppose that's the call to action for anyone who's listening in, is to don't accept second best for your sex life. Really go for it. And I love your story of your client who's 93 and still enjoying a great sex life. That is inspiring and something for us all, I think, to aspire to.
I want to be like her. And you've also got a 10% discount code. So you've got, it's called Menopause Centre, and that expires, I think, the end of next month, actually. But we can put it in the notes afterwards.
We're going to put it in the blog as well. So Sam said she's very generously offering my Menopause Centre Pause community members 10% off Joe Divine products. The website is www.joedivineoneword.com, and that's valid until the end of March, so 31st of March. So all I would say is, you know, it's an amazing website with fantastic products. Just go for it and try it out and have some fun, as you say. Sam, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Really appreciate the time. Thank you everyone for joining us as well, and I hope you found that incredibly stimulating and interesting. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, thank you. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.